Okay, good morning, students. Today we will be studying about the history of genetics. Since the course is Principles of Genetics, so today we will be studying about what is the pre-Mendelian era and the post-Mendelian era. Okay, so pre-Mendelian era means before the discovery of Mendel, what was known to the people about genetics, and what is post Mendelian era means after the discovery of Mendel. Since you all must be knowing that the Gregor John Mendel is the father of genetics, and he has done a lot of work on garden tea. So that, and he has also given certain laws in genetics like the law of segregation and the law of independent assortment. So we will be studying in today's class, we will be studying about the pre-Mendelian era. Okay, before the discovery of Mendel, what was mainly known? So the topic of discussion will be about the history of genetics, about the pre-Mendelian history and the post-Mendelian era. Mainly, we will be focusing on pre-Mendelian era today. So first, if we see the introduction of genetics, how the genetics has emerged. Okay, so what is genetics, that we will be seeing. So the branch of actually the genetics is the branch of biology that deals with hereditary. Mainly it deals with hereditary. Now, what is hereditary? Hereditary means transmission of characters from one generation to another. Okay, so what are the characters which are being transferred from parents to offsprings? That is called as hereditary. Mainly the genes are responsible for the transmission of characters from generations to generation. So what is genetics? It is the branch of biology that deals with hereditary, especially the mechanisms of hereditary transmission. So whatever the mechanisms which are involved for the transmission of characters from one generation to another, that is from the parents to the offsprings, that is called as hereditary. And the branch of science that deals with the transmission or the inheritance, in a better word, or in the technical word, we will say the inheritance of characters and the variation of inherited characters among the similar or related organisms. So when any particular character is transmitted from one generation to another, there are certain variations also that takes place. Okay, so mainly it is a branch of biology that deals with inheritance of characters as well as the variation which is being taking place from one generation to another, or from one organism to the similar or the related organism. So this was about the genetics, the introduction to genetics. Now coming to the history of genetics, mainly there are different theories which support the various foundings and the various things that have been kept by some of the scientists in the pre-Mendelian era. So mainly there are theories. Mainly there are three theories. First was the vapor and the fluid theory. Second one was the pre-formation theory, and the third one was particulate theory. Okay, so the ideas of the theories which have been forwarded from time to time, they explain the phenomena of inheritance. So mainly these three theories, like the vapor and the fluid theories, then the pre-formation theory and the particulate theories, they mainly explain how the inheritance or the phenomena of inheritance takes place. Okay, now one by one we will go into the details. First is the vapor and the fluid theory. What it states, there were various scientists who has kept some of the phenomena, which have kept some of their findings. Okay, so whatever they observe, that is not the exact thing, but what they observed, they just told. So Pythagoras, you must have heard the name of Pythagoras in 500 BC. So many years long back, he proposed that every organ of an animal body gives out some type of vapor. So this was not proved, but just he gave the sentence that this may be the origin of genetics. Okay, so every organ of an animal body gives out some type of vapors. These vapors unite and form a new individual. So this was his thoughts, and very long years back. So he said that there may be certain vapors and which give rise to the new individuals. Okay, so he gave this statement. Then similarly, Hippocrates in the 400 BC, he believed that the reproductive material is handed over from all parts of the body of an individual, so that the characters are directly handed over to the progeny. So what they said that what actually they have not done any findings, but they were just giving the statements. Okay, so these are called as the theories which are not proved. So they said that reproductive material maybe is handed over from all the body parts of an organism. Okay, so the different body parts of the organism, the reproductive material is handed over, and then it gives rise to the new individual according to them. Similarly, Aristotle in 350 BC, what he said that maybe what is the vitalizing effect, what is the vitalizing force that maybe gives rise to the new individual, maybe the semen, he said. Okay, then the second theory was the pre-formation theory. First one was the vapor and the fluid theory. Okay, so that was not proved. They were just the theories that have been proposed by Hippocrates, Aristotle, and these kinds of people. Then after that, the pre-formation theory came. Okay, so pre-formation theory, in this, what Leonardo da Vinci, what in the year 1452 to 1519, what he said, he proposed a theory that the male and the female parts contribute equally to the heredity of the offspring. Now this makes certain sense. Okay, so this had made certain sense, like maybe the male and the female parts, they contribute equally. That is responsible for the hereditary of the offspring. Okay, so there are certain genes from the male and the female parts that gives rise to the offsprings. Okay, offsprings can also be said in the technique, in the genetic terms, we say as progeny. Okay, so that is responsible for the hereditary transmission. Similarly, William Harvey in the year 1578 to 1657, he said that he just speculated that all animals arise from eggs and semen, only they play a vitalizing role. So all the scientists, they were just trying to understand that what is that vitalizing force which gives rise to the new offsprings, and that is mainly responsible for the transmission of characters from one generation to another. That means inheritance. Similarly, Leeuwenhoek in the year 1632 to 1723, he observed in the year 1677, he observed that sperms of the males and the dogs, frogs, and the fishes, so they gave the term as animalcules. Okay, so the exact word was not clear in their mind, so they said that animalcules, they gave the term, and they also suggested that there is certain association of them with the eggs. Similarly, in Wolff in 1738 to 1794, he said finally some useful theory came, that was the theory of epigenesis. Okay, so what in the theory of epigenesis, they proposed that he finally refuted the pre-formation theory by proposing that neither eggs nor sperm had the structure like homunculus, but gametes contribute. Here, the gametes. Now, the exact word gametes came by Wolff, and he rejected the theory of pre-formation theory. He rejected the pre-formation theory, and he supported and he gave the theory of epigenesis, which said that neither the sperm nor the eggs nor the homunculus, anything is responsible for the hereditary transmission. In fact, there are gametes that contain substances capable of forming organized body after fertilization. Okay, so he gave certain words like fertilization, gametes, that was responsible for, and this idea gave the very core for the theory of epigenesis. So Wolff gave the theory of epigenesis. This theory suggested that many new organs and tissues which were originally absent develop subsequently. So after fertilization of the gametes, one will be the male gamete and the female gamete. After the union, then there will be fertilization taking place, and then this theory was suggested by Wolff in the year 1738 to 1794. This was the work done by him, and he gave the theory of epigenesis, which proposed that neither the homunculus is responsible, and in fact there are gametes, and after fertilization they give rise to the different body parts. Okay, tissues which were originally absent. Wolff believed that these tissues and organs developed due to some mysterious vital force. Now, the third theory was particulate theory. So when as there was advancement in the genetic study, so they gave certain sense sentences. Like earlier, there was nothing was known about it, so they were saying maybe the homunculus is responsible or this is responsible. But as the scientists, they started studying towards, when they moved towards the next centuries, then they gave certain uh, theories. Then particulate theory. Third one was the particulate theory here. What in Maupertuis in the year 1689 to 1759, he was a French biologist. So he proposed that the body of each parent gives rise to a minute particles. So they use the term minute particles, each part of the parent. Okay, they gave rise to a minute particles. So during sexual reproduction, so you will be studying in the later classes that there are different types of reproduction, like the sexual reproduction, the asexual reproduction, and in plants we go for vegetative reproduction also. Okay, so like vegetative reproduction means where there is no union of the male and the female gamete. However, we are growing the plants through stem cuttings, root cuttings, grafting, like this kind of that mode of reproduction is called as vegetative reproduction. So he proposed that in certain cases the particles of the male parent might dominate on those of the female parent and produce the male individual, while in the production the particle of female might be dominant on particles of the male. So he proposed the biparental inheritance. Okay, so he gave biparental inheritance by elementary particles. So he just gave the term there are particles which may be responsible for hereditary transmission. So mainly particulate theories was given in different forms, like inheritance of acquired characters, then theory of pangenesis, and the third theory of germplasm. Okay, so these theories were given in different forms. Particulate theories means these theories comes under the particulate theories. Now, inheritance of acquired characters. Inheritance of acquired characters. In this, Lamarck was a scientist in the year 1844. He proposed the phenomena of inheritance of acquired characters. Acquired characters means those characters which have been acquired from one individual or one organism to the another organism. Okay, that is called as acquired characters among the living organisms. But he failed to provide the convincing evidences. So there were certain scientists who just gave the statements, but they were failed to give the evidences for it. Whenever you are proposing any theory, you should be, as a scientist, you should be able to give certain evidences to it. Okay, so, but he failed to provide the evidences in support of his concepts. Similarly, theory of pangenesis was given by Charles Darwin in the year 1868. He gave his famous theory of pangenesis, which exclusively depends on the particulate theory. Okay, so according to this theory, in animal body produces many minute particles known as gamules. So he said that animal bodies, they produce gamules which are first collected in the blood and then concentrated in the reproductive organs. Okay, so when the animal reproduces into new individuals, these gamules pass on it and blend into both the parents. So what he said that there are certain gamules which are transferred from parents to the offsprings. So according to the theory of pangenesis. Similarly, theory of germplasm was given by August Weismann in the year 1838 to 1934, and he disapproved the theory of, so one scientist can disapprove the theory of other scientists also. He disapproved the theory of pangenesis, and Weismann in the year 1892, he postulated the theory of germplasm to explain the hereditary. So here, these things you have to remember that who gave the theory of germplasm? August Weismann in the year 1892, he explained hereditary. What he said? He said that the body of the organisms contain two types of cells. Okay, so he said that each body of an organism, they contain two types of cells. First is the somatic cells, and the second one is reproductive cells. The somatic cells make up the body and its various organs. So what is the work of the somatic cells? They give rise to various body organs, various organs. While the reproductive cells, they mainly participate in the reproduction process, that is for the offspring's development. While the reproductive cells form the sperm and the ova. The somatic cells contain the somatoplasm. What is there in the somatic cells? Somatoplasm is the present inside the somatic cells, and germinal or the reproductive cells, they contain the germplasm. According to Weismann, the germplasm can form the somatoplasm, but vice versa cannot take place. Okay, so Weismann, what he said that the germplasm can form the somatoplasm, but somatoplasm cannot be converted into germplasm. Okay, so the somatic cells can be converted into germline cells, but the germline cells cannot be converted into somatic cells. According to Weismann, the changes in the somatic cells due to environment cannot influence the reproductive cells even after cutting the tail of a mice for many generations. So for to prove this, he also did one experiment where he had cut the tail of the mice for many generations, and he got tailed mice again. But after few generations, he did not got the mouse with the cut tail. In fact, he got the mice with a proper tail only. So such experiments, he rejected the Lamarckianism and pangenesis theory. Okay. So though the particular theory faced many problems in its beginning, but its basic concept has formed the central core for the modern understanding of the genetics. So this was a theory which formed the basic core for the understanding of genetics. Okay. So he gave mainly two terms. That is, there are two types of cells present in all the organisms. First is the somatic cells. The other one is reproductive cells or the germline cells. Somatic cells mainly give rise to tissues and tissues and various types of organs which form into the organs in the later generations. Then, and the reproductive cells mainly participate in reproduction, giving rise to the offsprings. Now, this was till now what we have studied was about the pre-Mendelian era. Okay, so before the Mendel's discovery. Now, this slide shows the post-Mendelian era, where the Mendel's discovery came. Okay, so Gregor John Mendel is known as the father of genetics, and he has done a lot of work on garden pea and various other crops also, and mainly he gave 2-3 laws in genetics. So that we will be studying. The first law was the law of segregation. The second law was the law of independent assortment. So Gregor John Mendel, his full name, he discovered the basic principles of heredity through experiments with garden pea. So he has worked a lot on garden pea. He has done experiments on garden pea, and he has proposed certain principles of hereditary, which are popularly known as Mendel's laws. Okay, they are known as Mendel's laws. In the year 1900, the work of Mendel was independently rediscovered. So when Mendel was working on garden pea, and he had given certain points, and he has given certain discoveries, so nobody was believing him. And after his death, so I will be in one of the classes, I will be telling the whole work of Mendel. And after his death, his work was again independently done by some of the scientists like Hugo de Veres, Carl Correns, and Ernest Deschamps, and they have rediscovered his work independently. Later on, these principles were further clarified and confirmed by several workers and some new concepts of heredity. So when his work was independently rediscovered, so scientists have also found that so there are other concepts of hereditary also. So these new concepts were different from the findings of Mendel. These concepts were often referred to as Mendelian deviations or exceptions or anomalies. Okay, so his work was also challenged by some of the scientists. Now, the Mendelian deviations. What are the various Mendelian deviations? First one is the incomplete dominance. So these things I will be telling you in details in the later classes. First one. So what are the deviations of Mendel's? First one is the incomplete dominance, multiple alleles, lethal genes, pleiotropic gene effect, environmental effects, codominance, linkage, gene interactions, polygenes, and cytoplasmic inheritance. So these were certain deviations. So they contradict to the statements which were given by Mendel. That is why they were called as Mendelian deviations. So I think I will end today's class. Now we will go into the discussion part. Thank you.